SD 2.17 is rebirth immediate. Now this is quite a long essay, page 116. Now don't worry, I won't be using much of this. I leave this for you to read at home. I'm going to summarize, simplify it for you. Maybe I might refer to some sentences or sections. This is not an easy topic, rebirth. There are two teachings in Buddhism which can be difficult in a sense that there's no way of proving it. Not like, you give dana, you act it out, you know it, The first is karma and rebirth. We only have this rough idea. We know, if you do good, you get good. If you do bad, then the result is bad, right? But we don't always see this. It's quite tricky situation. Of course, in the end, we know good people will prosper, bad people will get caught, right? There's a Malay saying, even the squirrel is very clever in jumping from tree to tree. One day it will fall, right? So some people think that they can get away with it, but no matter how clever you are, you will get caught. There is a saying in the suttas. The Buddha say, "Foolish man, why you want to do evil things? You yourself know it. You yourself know if something's wrong. If you don't know it is wrong, you're doubly wrong." And then the gods, the devas, they are watching you. If you don't believe in devas, it's like aliens. They've got your telescope, they can see you. And then the Buddhas also know this. Because next time you meet the Buddha, look at you and say, okay, you know why you can't practice? Okay, these are the reasons. Or you know why you can practice? You have done something good, like that. So there are people who will know. In fact, you don't need to be a deva or a Buddha. If you are wise, you look at people, you know people, you more or less know whether they have done bad or not. So it's not worth it. Doing bad is not worth it, basically. We talked about that some time back. Now the other thing is, if you have karma, there's also rebirth, because some of the fruits of karma don't seem to result in this life. So karma or our action can fruit in the next life, immediately next life, or following lives. So these are the three kinds of karma. Karma in this life, next life, following lives. So today we're going to talk about those following lives. Again, very hard to prove this. So this is, in a sense, is out of faith. But this is where, if you look at religion, all religion have some teachings where you take in faith. But if you compare the other religions, what are the teachings they put on faith and what Buddhism does are very different. For example, you have to believe in God on faith, and so on. You don't know whether it's right or wrong. And everyone says, each person has got their own idea about God, and there's so much violence done in the name of God today. So it's really complicated. But we don't have that kind of teaching in Buddhism. In the case of karma, it is common sense. You look around, you more or less see this is true, especially in the laws, for example. And even if there's no way of proving it is true or not, it is a good theory. It is a good theory. Okay? The other one is rebirth, also same, right? Even though we cannot prove it, but it is a good theory, good idea. But there are people who have studied all this, like rebirth, and they can tell you it is more likely to happen than otherwise. Can you imagine we only have one short life? Is that one short life enough for us to be wise enough to choose between heaven and hell? In some religion they tell you eternal heaven, eternal hell. But you only got one short life. So how can we be wise enough to choose? They even tell us that we are all foolish. We are foolish in the eyes of God, for example. Then they expect us to make the right choice. It's not easy, right? But in Buddhism, you have many, many lives to learn. Suffering is our best teacher. Suffering teaches us what's wrong. We should not be doing that. Now, there is a special word for this in science. It is called irritability. It is irritability that teaches all these little species, even tiny little cells, what to do, what not to do. And when you know to avoid the bad things, the dangerous things, you survive, you evolve, you change, become better. So doing good is a natural thing. Good karma is a natural thing. So this is a short life. How do we know we have other lives? Now we know that humble plants grow from seeds. Plants die, and then from the seeds, new plants grow. You know, in places like Australia, California, sometimes you got this really big fire, very big fire. You know, and now the weather is so warm, and there's a lot of fire. Then these forests get burnt, and the whole forest is destroyed. But after that, you begin to see once everything is died down and rain falls, and then slowly you see the shoots coming out. A stronger breed of plants and trees grow. It's amazing. The fire is so hot, and yet all these seeds are still there. Somehow they survived. So just use a bit of logic. If plants, so humble plants, only plants is, we say only one consciousness in a sense. They just have feeling. Feeling in the sense of irritability. They can grow. They can multiply. They also evolve. We human beings who are so intelligent with so many cells, surely we also can grow through our mind. Our body multiply, create other humans. Our mind also is able to multiply itself, so to speak. In other words, to continue life after life. But this mind can only exist if it is changing all the time. Because if it doesn't change, it cannot exist. Right? So this is common sense. That's why in Buddhism we don't talk of a soul, like fixed idea of soul. Because if it is fixed, that means it can't exist. Even this cup, it seems to be fixed. It's not fixed. This cup also is impermanent. It can easily break. And the scientists will tell you there are atoms inside moving all the time. Right? We don't see it, but it is changing. A little bit crack here and so on. Nothing in this world does not change. Everything is changing. Only in change there is meaning. So our mind also changes. When things change, we begin to understand. We see differences. We begin to understand language. Language is a series of changes in sound and tones and words. When we listen to the variation, the sound, the impermanence, we understand. So on the deeper level, we must look at the language of impermanence in all our life. We were all very young once. And then we became teenagers. We did all kinds of naughty things. We go to school, we studied, we work. And now we are all in the evening of our lives. Things have changed so fast. Right? And on the Facebook also, some of these older teachers will talk to each other about how our body don't listen to us now. Sometimes you type, wrong things come out, and so on. So that's the way it is. Things change, but the mind can still be sharp. The mind can be sharp right to the end. That's your choice. That's why we meditate. If you don't meditate, your mind is going to get weak and going to see all kinds of funny stories. All the ghosts you believe will come to you. All the wrong views you believe will become real. So be very careful with the views that you have. Views are like the movies that you see, They're all movies, not real, stories. You like one movie, you think of it and you think it's real. But it's going to haunt you. We want to let go of all this, free ourselves from all these views, and your mind is beautiful. Whatever is in front of you, you can see beautiful trees, plants, skies, people, things, and you're happy. So we want to clear our minds. So as we grow older, we need our minds to be more clear. That is why we don't drink, we don't take drugs, to keep the mind unclouded. Okay? So it is this mind which is changing all the time, like electricity. The mind moves on. only if the mind changes, it can move on. If it doesn't change, it cannot move on. Like electricity is changing all the time. It moves, it flows like water. Like water flows. Yeah? So this consciousness, it's like, our body has got genes, right? Those biological genes. So you can say the consciousness is like mental genes, if you like. So there's this part of our brain, a small part, if you like, that is reborn in the next life, okay? And this mind just have enough of our certain characteristics now, okay? And then just move over new life and then start all over again. So there are two things that define us, if you like. Number one is our past karma. This is the past, nature, yeah? And then there is nurture, present conditions. Present conditions also shape us. So it's not only karma. Yeah? You got karma is past conditions. Then you got present conditions or present karma, if you like. This is called nurture. Nature, nurture. Two things work together. And both teachings are important in Buddhism. Like we talk about karma and we talk about present conditions. In other words, although we may face some bad karma, we can also create new karma. We can also change the effect of bad karma, especially through loving kindness. Loving kindness is a very powerful way of weakening the effects of bad karma. Loving kindness, which we did a while ago. Okay? All right, so this rebirth means someone dies and then the consciousness moves on. So there are some difficult questions here. So, for example, when someone dies, is the person reborn immediately or not? There are two problems here, actually. The first problem is, when is the person dead, right? We don't really know. Of course, the medical science may tell you, okay, no breath, no heartbeat, no brain activity, this person is dead. But according to Buddhism, there may be no heartbeat, no brain waves, even the body feels not that warm, but somehow the life force is still there, the consciousness is still there. So like some of these very deep meditators, the Buddha and the Arahats, they can meditate into a state called cessation. In other words, everything stops, all the life processes stop. For 7 days they can sit like that, So if you test them, they're practically dead actually. But then after that, they come out of the meditation. So these are things which are baffle science today. Right? So they are making new researches about these things. So the thing is, we don't really know when the person dies. That is why we want to make sure we keep this person for a while, just to be sure the person is dead. There's a very funny story here. I don't know whether I told you or not. It was a real story, a small little article, in the Straits Times, long, long ago when I was very young. The story went that this Italian man probably had a heart attack and he collapsed, and people thought he died, so they put him in a coffin. Italians are very emotional, so the whole family get together around the coffin, start crying, and say, "Oh, why you leave us? Come back," etc., etc. And then they heard some noise in the coffin. This man came back. He actually came back, and then they opened up. They saw him. They got a shock, and the man also got a shock. See himself in the coffin. He was so shocked he collapsed again, and died. So he really died this time, second round. So the story goes. So there you are. Sometimes it's so ironic. We don't know when death will come. So but definitely within 7 days, if you are a normal person, not awakened, you will be dead. The question now is, okay, the body is dead, but where does the mind go? So this is the big problem now. Now, I'm not telling you, I'm giving you all the best answers, the final answers, so don't quarrel with me. Just listen, and then maybe you might read the sutta, understand it better. Maybe you might even experience it yourself, right? But you must get some sutta background to understand all this. So what I'm telling you is what I understand from the suttas, the teachings, and all these years I've been learning from other teachers. So when someone dies, if the person is really good, peaceful, let's say it's a practicing monk, or better still, is a saint, he will immediately pass away, no more rebirth. like the Buddha, no more rebirth, enlightened. It's just like the fire you put out. The fire has gone nowhere. You cannot say the fire has gone north, east, south, or west. No more fire. No more fire, no more heat, no more suffering. That's it. Okay? That's the idea of nirvana. The last week I spoke about one very short sutta. It says nirvana in a manner of speaking. Nirvana by reality. Two kinds of nirvana. No? It says when you meditate, you let go of these hindrances. No? So when you let go of the hindrances, that is nirvana in a manner of speaking. Or a simple way, let's say for us, no, who are not enlightened, when you're angry, you think of something good, then you can let go of the anger. You feel happy, no more anger. That is the nirvana of the anger. So it's a nirvana in a manner of speaking. Then finally, like the Buddha, you attain nirvana. That's the real nirvana, right? So from there, you can have the idea what nirvana is like. Nirvana means, well, you totally no more anger, right? That's the first kind of nirvana. You become enlightened and then you live on. Then the last one, you pass away, nirvana, no more rebirth, no more suffering. That's the second one. So that's the same, immediate. Okay. Now let's jump to the other side. Someone who's very full of attachment, a very bad person, they will take a longer time to die because they are so attached. They think of this, they think of that, they think of their things, Maybe they won't even die, just keep on suffering, right? So, and then when they die, they're still dissatisfied. Like they become hungry ghosts, we say, ghosts. Actually, hungry ghost is a Chinese idea. The sutta simply says, departed ones. Preta means departed ones. They are suffering. They're very attached. It's like they're supposed to go away, normal house, the body is not functional. The conscience leaves the body. It's like in a dream, okay? So, but they don't want to leave. They're still stuck to usually a place where they're familiar with, wherever they're familiar with. So this is a warning, So if you like gambling, you'll be caught in a gambling den, maybe, and so on. So they're stuck, right? And you remember we studied the sutta about the pretas, that we don't know which our relatives are still around, right? So we send our loving kindness to all of them, wish them well and happy. In fact, in a sense, all the dead are related to us somehow, because in our many, many lives, we are reborn. We have been mothers, fathers, brothers, sisters, children, father to each other. So we are connected, in that sense, over a long, long time. So this person who is very attached to life dies, and he gets stuck in the place, right? So it's something like haunting the place, if you like. But this kind of beings or spirit, they're suffering, they're suffering. They're not there to trouble you. Only our storytellers, because of ignorance, we have this tradition, say, oh, this kind of ghost, that kind of ghost. But those stories have their reasons. Various reasons those stories came up. But all these ghosts, or the word ghost is a bit frightening. The departed beings, they are suffering. And they can't communicate. They have no language because they don't have a physical body, and they don't have much powers. It's like they're running on battery, so to speak, something like that. Because they take no food. It's just consciousness, Even then, it's not very strong. And according to the suttas, what keeps them going is their craving. Because they don't know how to let go, you see. It's just like someone, don't want to leave. You're such a nice host, nice house, the person don't want to leave, So, but they have to leave. But they can't let go, is it? So when you send out loving kindness, say, may you be well and happy, and you have this generate good feelings during the funeral or any time, then this departed one, this suffering being, feel very happy and learns to let go. It's not attached to the old place anymore. So then they're reborn. Okay. So this is the departed one, or what we call the ghost. No? But there is one more. It's called the intermediate being. This one is a bit controversial. Intermediate being, in other words, according to the sutta, it's mentioned in this book also, where someone has passed away but not yet reborn. Okay, so this is why there are some Buddhists, Theravada even, they say, such thing as intermediate state, everyone is reborn immediately. Now, if everyone is reborn immediately, it's quite problematic, A dies, immediately be reborn somewhere else. It's very difficult to be born as a human being that way, because you've got to find another suitable rebirth elsewhere. Reborn as an insect or worm possible, but that's not very good, isn't it? So it is more likely there is a space that people take to be reborn. Okay. So meanwhile, they are caught in this between states, after death, before rebirth. And this is mentioned again and again in this essay here. You can read up. So, for example, people ask the Buddha a few times, not once or twice, says, what is it that keeps this being going between death and rebirth? The Buddha says the person's craving. The person's craving keeps person going, get stuck in the intermediate stage. Okay. On the other hand, there's also the good version. For example, in the case of the non-returners. Okay, non-returners are those saints who are one more step to become arahat. So when they pass away, they're on the way to be reborn in the Sudavasa, pure abodes. So as they are being reborn, they got enlightened. They awaken in between. So there is this in-between state there also. Now, you remember you chant the Metta Sutta. You say, may all beings, those who are born and those to be born. Okay, where is that? Can you find that? Beings to be born, Samba Vesi. There, section 7. Section 7, what page is it? 127. Okay, this is the part. Can you see the verse 5? Can you see number 5 there? Okay, at the bottom, be they seen or unseen, those that were far or near, those already born or about to be born, may all beings be happy. Actually, about to be born is not a very good translation. I should translate as beings seeking birth, something like, because some Bhavesi means to become. Okay, those beings seeking birth. Okay, so this one is metta. May all beings be happy-minded. So here we are saying that the beings that we can see, may you all be well and happy. Those beings that we don't see, they're all here. May you all be well and happy too. Okay. And then those that were far or near, because our thoughts can travel, so we send our thoughts to relatives and friends far away, and thoughts can travel, And maybe your friends remember you just at the time you are doing the loving kindness, and then the person phone you or email you and say, hey, I am thinking of you. Right? So it's a wonderful way of communicating. So that is those dwelling far or near. And then line 3, those already born or about to be born or seeking birth. So these Sambhavesi are those still seeking birth, not yet born. See? So this is the intermediate state being mentioned in the Metta Sutta, which is a very popular sutta, right? So it's there, all mentioned very clearly. Of course, the commentators are not too happy with this. Commentators say, this refers to those, to the birds, they are first born in the egg and then they come out of the egg, So there are differences in opinions, if you like. But now most Buddhists, most Theravada Buddhists also, traditional Buddhists, they accept this idea that there is rebirth. This is the universal Buddhist understanding, if you like. So once And one more thing is you have lots of parables where the Buddha talk about, for example, you look at this 8.2, section 8, the parables, quite a number of parables there. Further down, 8.4, it's quite a long one here. Suppose, can you see that one? 8.4? Yeah. Suppose monks, king has a frontier city. Okay, so let me simplify this. So there's this big city in the borders, and then you look at the city, you got the city center, and then there are people walking about, and there's the lot of city sitting there in the city center, and there are 6 gates. 6 gates means 6 senses, and the people walking about, that means they die and then they're being reborn. And the lot of city represents consciousness, right? So here the Buddha says you can see people walking from one house, walking to another house. Some people are still in the street, So people are still in the street, still walking. That's the intermediate state. See? So there are lots of this kind of ideas in the parables, in the examples the Buddha gave. The point here is this idea that rebirth is not immediate, it takes time. In other words, has foundation in the suttas. So what is the significance here? If the person has a lot of greed, hatred, delusion, all this come under craving actually, then the likelihood of the person stuck there is greater, in other words. But as I say, it's not always a bad thing. For example, in the case of non-returners, as they are being reborn, they can get enlightened too. But those are saints, all right? So generally, we want to keep our minds calm and peaceful. When our minds are calm and peaceful, then we pass away peacefully. We are not attached to this world. We know nothing in this world belongs to us. We just want to let it go. That is why during our breath meditation just now, we also do a very simple reflection. It's a very powerful reflection. We breathe in, we have life. We breathe out, we have life also, right? So imagine this breath, breathe in, breathe out. If we stop breathing, no life, But we must always give back what we take in. We take in this breath, we must give back. We cannot keep it. We just take for a moment, we give back. Take a moment, we give back. Even this life, this breath, we cannot keep. What else in the world can we really keep? We can use it temporarily, So we should not be attached in that sense. Then you are reborn, new life, you start all over again, right? Some people say, oh, that's wonderful, new life. But if you think about it carefully, you're born, you're a baby, and then you have to grow up. You hurt your knees again, and you got to go to school. That's the worst part, going back to school. You go through all the teenage problems again, over and over again, right? It's not that simple, all right? Well, we have no choice. We have no choice. So the Buddha is saying, you have done this so many million times. Don't you get sick of it? The Buddha says, So that's why if you learn to meditate, calm yourself, then you go through all this happily, and then you free yourself from suffering. All right? So the simple answer is yes, there is this intermediate stage. We don't know how long. Now, this is the next question. How long does it last? Definitely lasts more than one day, but some traditions say 7 days. Some teachers say as long as necessary. So there's no fixed number. The most popular we hear is what? 49 days, right? Somehow that's become a very magical number, 7 times 7, and very suitable for performing rituals. So during this period, whether it is 7 days or 49 days, we don't know. Now, because we don't know, that is why we do this loving kindness ritual. We get together as a family, or even one person. We think of the good things this person has done. We do loving kindness meditation. Then we dedicate this to this dying person. We say, I want you to be well and happy. It's just like I'm the one. Let's say I'm the one who is in the intermediate state, and then you are telling me, may you be happy, and I feel happy. I say, oh look, my friends, my children are all telling me, happy things. I feel good. You feel good when you see your relatives remembering you with loving kindness. Then you learn to let go. You say goodbye. So then you are reborn. Okay. Otherwise, you are just stuck moving around like a weed like that. So that's not very happy. So it can be 7 days, 49 days. There's some interesting points here. Some of the great teachers of the past, they give us some hints. Of course, again, there's no way of proving it. For example, they say if this consciousness, the being to be born, is wandering around, still looking for suitable rebirth. Okay, because take for example, there is this guy, he's a really bad guy. He's a robber, murderer, so he only gets up in the night, very dark, and waits for victims, So that's the kind of life he lives in the dark, So imagine, when he passes away, he will not like bright places, so he will go to dark places. He will look for beings which are like him. What kind of beings are those? There'll be predators like tigers and lions, animals. So one of this teacher called Vasubandhu, he says, okay, so this person who is like that, he will see future parents mating, male, female. So in this case, because of his mind is a predator, animal-like, prowling, looking for victims, so you will see this tiger and tigress mating. Then he says something very interesting. 1,000 years before Sigmund Freud, he said, if this consciousness has a liking for the mother, this consciousness will be born as a son. If it has a liking for the father, it will be born as a daughter. Very interesting remark he made. Okay, so and then this being is reborn. Finally found a suitable rebirth. So that's why this being get caught in the intermediate state, because he's still not sure where to go. He cannot find a suitable birth because of his bad karma. All right? But good karma is very fast. Okay? So these are some ideas we have here to help us practice so that we are happy ourselves. We don't get caught too long in the intermediate state. We are reborn and then we grow up happily again and practice the Dhamma again. We want to be born under happy conditions, the right conditions where we can practice the Dhamma. Nowadays you find there are a lot of places in the world you find are suitable to practice the Dhamma. You can go to almost any continent, even in Africa. There are African Buddhist monks now, right? And even in Kuwait, people have retreats in the hotels, in those Arab states. Of course, in Australia and other urbanized countries, there are lots of Buddhist centers. So, wherever you are reborn, you want these happy conditions. How do you get these happy conditions? By right now cultivating a happy, positive, good mind, in other words. What you think of now will build up your future. Okay? So that is why we are reminded again and again to reflect on impermanence. Why is impermanence so helpful? Because when you constantly reflect, everything is impermanent, then whatever happens to you, you will not get attached to it. If you fall sick, you say it was impermanent. Right? So you will say this sickness also is impermanent, it will go away. Once my eyesight was very good, I could see all these words very clearly. And now, when I eat, I can even, some of the dishes, I don't know what it is. I got to ask Rana, I say, what's that dish? It looks very odd. So my eyesight is not so clear. So I got to tell myself, well, that's the way it is, You can't expect your eyesight to be 20/20 all your whole life, Some people can do that, but I use my eyes so much, so they weaken faster. So we've got to accept all that. Okay? So when you say it's impermanent, then you are not afraid, right? Then as you go older, you find many of our friends disappearing. That's another terrible thing happens to us. So it's okay, you know. So all this, I see some of these great scholars. They were really fantastic teachers, and they were making sharp remarks, you know, over the internet and so on. Now they're retired, so they sit back with their Facebook, still making funny remarks, but only to a few friends. So I told myself, look at them, look at us, you know. These are all the old teachers slowly fading away. One by one, the lights go out, you know. But we are happy together to know that here we are, staying together, and we know our time will come soon, but we're not afraid. We say, well, that's the way things are. We'll meet again. So this is where, when you practice now, you're happy. That's why smiling in meditation is very important. You build these joyful states, this calm state, this bright state. All this will prepare you for a happy rebirth. The word samsara can be translated as the cycle of re-death and rebirth. Re-death is, we don't hear the word re-death, but if you look at this, the way the Buddhists talk, it makes sense to use the word re-death because of rebirth. Okay? In other words, according to Buddhism, there is really no such thing as death. The body dies, yes. From this side of life, you see, oh, this person we know stop functioning already. The body stopped functioning. But the consciousness is reborn. A new life. So in that sense, there's no point mourning for the dead, because the dead is no more there already. It's reborn elsewhere. If they are, especially if they're good people, they are reborn already. Alright? So we don't have to worry too much about them. They are happily in heaven, maybe as a god, you know, Deva, or they are reborn elsewhere as a little baby, or perhaps if they do a lot of good deeds but didn't keep the precepts, they are reborn as somebody's pets, a neighbor's pets, maybe. But they are reborn. So the best thing we can do is show our loving kindness to everyone. All right. Mother's Day is coming, and then I wrote a little reflection. One of the most beautiful things that is said in the sutta about Mother's Day or Father's Day also is that the Buddha says we have lived so many times in this samsara, in this cycle of life and death. It is very difficult not to find somebody here who has not been your mother or your father. Everybody has been our father or mother. The sutta says being. It didn't say human, That means it can be a cat or dog also. Can be Deva also. Who have been our mothers before. Isn't that a wonderful idea? So you should be kind to others. Because they have been our mothers before, our fathers before, our brothers, sisters, and so on. So this is a very wonderful teaching of death and rebirth, that we are somehow always together, always connected, and what we do now can change our future. So don't get caught in a wrong way. Then your rebirth will not be happy. The last moment also will not be happy. But when you reflect impermanence, you're at peace with yourself, you're reborn happily, and then you start all over again, closer and closer to the Buddha. Okay? Alright, so I hope I have made it simple enough. So we'll have a short break. Then after this, we will have some questions, if any. Okay? So you want to read the details, you can go back and look at the notes here.
I think I read in the Tibetan tradition, they talk about the intermediate state. There are 4 stages.
Oh, 5.
5. How do they come to that sort?
Oh, the Tibetan tradition, they use the word bardo, which means intermediate state, in different ways. In other words, they take it, in a sense, a literal sense, like a turning point, So the intermediate state is like a turning point. So, in other words, if you do a lot of metta for this person may be able to come out of the intermediate state, find a happy rebirth. So, for example, to them they say the human birth is the intermediate state. There is one sutta where the Buddha said this life is just a moment, and it changes. So to be born as human, you can change, you can become Buddha. That's one kind of intermediate state. And then they got this dream bardo. They believe that through dream also you can change and so on. So they have different meditation is another one like that. So they use this term for different practices, different times. Basically, they're trying to tell their followers to practice all these occasions are chances for you to grow, to change. Anything that helps you to change, become a better person is called an intermediate state. So they broaden the meaning. And the death intermediate state is one of them, of course. Yeah. So they call I think the 5 of them, 5 bardos.
I've been wondering why this question I'm now be able to find answer. This thing about 49 days. Is it 49 days a maximum number?
Well, I've been asking a lot of teachers myself. All these numbers are symbolic. They're no fixed numbers. The ancient religions are all symbolic, So, for example, you find some teachers say immediate, some teachers say 7. Some Vasubandhu says, it takes as long as necessary, So I suppose in China, they like to standardize everything. So why don't you take 49? It's kind of very convenient, 7 times 7, is it? And then you tell stories about it, then people start repeating the stories. The idea of 49 is convenient for society to, show respect. It's a social thing, not really a religious thing. On the other hand, when you talk about meditation, a person goes without food 7 days. I suppose that's the maximum the body can take, perhaps. So beyond that, the body cannot take it. Although the mind can take it, but the body cannot take it. So numbers are usually symbolic, Even if you take 7, there's this teaching that if you become a stream winner, in other words, a first stage saint on the path, you have 7 more lives to go. But what kind of lives, if you're born as a high-level deva in the higher realms, wow, one life is one whole world cycle, or a few world cycles. That's a long time. So although you say 7 lives, it's very long, So this is where numbers are not very helpful in religion. They're symbolic. 7 seems to be a lucky number, in many cultures. So the idea is when you pray for the dead, you must always do it with loving kindness. You must have this attitude of this thought of loving kindness you must connect with the deceased with this thought of loving kindness. That's why it's very important. Otherwise, the prayers won't work. It won't be very helpful. Imagine, switch roles. You are the one, and people are praying for you. If they just say they get all these commercial priests together and then they just chant, you don't know what it is, everybody wants to get over with it. You say, hey, why are they doing this for me? It's so meaningless. But you get friends who really come together. They're feeling, they remember you. They feel good about it. They send good thoughts to you, and they meditate, and you feel good too, you see. So you must see the situation for yourself, right? It's not to make you feel good because society looks at, wow, this family very good now, they perform all the rituals correctly. It's just a worldly thing, see, because of property and so on, But this one's really praying for the dead with love, So you get together. For example, if someone, a close friend passes away, this person, the first thing you should do is get together, a few of you, sit around his body, and just send happy thoughts to him. And that will send him well immediately, if you do it properly. In Thailand, the moment someone dies, especially someone you know well, they will clean his body and they'll put in the house center place like this, and then they'll put one hand out open like this. Okay, you can still see the face. You have a last chance to see him. And then they put a bowl down there, so you have the scented water, very nice water smelling. water. So you come and say goodbye by pouring a bit of water on the hand. It's very perfume water, yes. So you see, because pouring this water means giving. So you are sending this person off, you are wishing this person off. It's like you are sharing your merit like that, with this person. Normally, we pour water into the bowl and then we throw in the trees, but this one we... Oh yes, one more thing about pouring water in the hand is also the father or the king will give the daughter away, pour water on the hand, means I give the water away. Or the king will give you a title and pour water on your hand, give you land, pour water on the hand like that. So this is called the water of giving. All right. So in Thailand they do that, and everyone has a chance to see this dear friend one last time before it's covered up. So they have a very healthy attitude towards death, because it's like birth, you receive the child, you see. Death, you send this person, you say goodbye. You'll meet again next life anyway, it's rebirth. So they don't have this superstitious fear of they don't see death as something bad luck or anything like that, So this is a very positive Buddhist teaching.
I have another question.
Sure.
Last night I was reading Ajahn Sumedho, and he was saying something very interesting. I thought somewhere in between the thought. There was this person who had died, so they did a Buddhist ritual, rites for this person. After it was done, another group came and said, "Oh no, I think we made a mistake. Let's do it another way." So my question was, when I read it, I said, "Oh gosh, if the consciousness is still there because of intermediate or whatever, then this deceased, we say, hey, which way do I go?" That was, wow. I said, better make it very clear, when we are gone. Only this time, I'm confused. What is your comment on that?
Okay, it's very simple, really. Remember, I told you earlier, there's really no such thing as death. Once a person is dead, it's already reborn, you see, elsewhere. So it doesn't really matter what you do with the body, In fact, these modern people, they're so well educated, they're not afraid to die. Remember, there was this person, where is he from? Australia, is it? Yeah. So he's going to go to Switzerland to die, to sign his own death warrant. It's so brave of him, because he's 100 years old. He find that his body is not so good. So he's lived a full life, I don't agree with him, but, he make up his own mind, you see. He's very brave in that sense, So you must really be calm and peaceful. Now, in a sense, it's something we don't talk very much about in Buddhism, For example, how did the Buddha die? The Buddha announced that he's going to die. Now, if someone announces he's going to die, that means he himself stops it, Right? So there's something not many monks even dare to talk about. I wrote a short section in the Mahaparinibbana Sutta. Did the Buddha commit suicide?
Yeah.
Of course, suicide doesn't come into my mind here, but it's a question some people ask, You see, suicide is something people kill themselves because they're not happy and so on. But here the Buddha has done everything. Everything is already done, nothing more to be done. And he's very old, 80 years old. He can live up to 100, 120 if he likes. The word used in the sutta is he releases his life sankharas, life formations. He lets go of the will to live. That is one way of putting it. Now, let me say something else. There's another group called the Jains. The Jains, they are even more strict than the Buddhists. One of their strict practices is that they can take a vow not to take food, and then slowly take just a bit of water, and then slowly they pass away. They'll just waste away and then they die. And everyone will come, pay respect to this person, a saint, They know he's going to die, he knows he's going to die. So this is called salekha, But then the Buddha took this word, change of salekkhana, to refer to a different kind of practice, because the Buddha doesn't encourage us to do that. But the Jains, they do that. They call it holy suicide, So only the saints do this, all right? So they have this very interesting idea about all this in India. So in the case of the Buddha, he already reached his full age, and then he asks Ananda, do you think I should extend my life, full life, maybe 100 years, 120 years? Ananda went blur. Really, this is the right word, because Mara appears to him and confused him. So he didn't answer at all. For many years I wonder, why did the Buddha do that? Why doesn't the Buddha just extend his life for our benefit, That is extra. You see, I've done a lot of this work, sutta work, indexes and so on. You know how difficult to do index, Then I tell people, I say, hey, do you like the indexes? No response. So I told myself, well, in that case, I slow it down. I don't have to do that, focus on other things. So you invite people. If they show no interest, then you don't do it. It shows that they're not ready or they're not interested. So Ananda didn't respond. Of course, it's arguable, it's Mara's fault and so on. But there's a lesson there. You want something good, you got to tell this person. You got to tell the person you care for. You love this person, you care for the person. Show that love while the person is still alive, not after the person is dead. After the person is dead, it's already gone elsewhere. So all these rituals are useless, meaningless. So you got to do it while the person is still alive. Show all that, not ritual, but real feeling, real love. So in the case of the Buddha, he felt he has done enough. So all you got to do is he is very sick, very old, lying down there. He's already going to die anyway. So he just let go, in other words. So in another way of putting it is that he knows he's going to pass away. So he lies down there peacefully. And because he's such a peaceful person, he's able to more like hold back his life, until the last moment, let it go. And there are stories, some people, for example, they say, I want my younger son or older son to come back. So just hold on until the son comes back, and then the son comes back, they just expire. See? So this is one way we can explain the way the Buddha passed away. All right. So these are very interesting problems in the history of Buddhism. Okay. Other questions? More questions, huh? Okay, so we finished early today. Normal time, quarter past. So let us do a short reflection as we close. Now, we don't always have the chance to gather together peacefully like this. When we get that chance, it is because we have done a lot of wonderful good deeds in the past, and we are gathered together in peace, and we are able to listen, study, reflect on the Buddha's teachings to make our life more peaceful, so that we become wiser, happier, and we also bring happiness to others. And this is the purpose of us gathering here. This is the reason why we study the Buddha's teaching. Reflecting in this way is very good karma. But the power of this good karma and the power of the three jewels, may we be blessed with happiness, peace, good health, so that we can practice the true teaching ourselves. In this life we are happy and can find our way to the Buddha's path of awakening. May we be blessed with courage and wisdom to aspire to stream winning in this life itself. And let us send our loving kindness to our relatives and friends and people we love and care for, that they may be well and happy too. And those who are practicing the Dharma, may they quickly find their goal in this life itself. And those who are lost, may they too quickly see the right way and find awakening in this life. May all beings be well and happy. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.